It's a nine-chord banger. Dr. Ross dropping knowledge to the masses. Man, you now tuned in to purpose and practice. Ayy, yeah, purpose and practice. Keep your mental sharp, learn all the tactics. Dr. Ross dropping knowledge to the masses. Man, you now tuned in to purpose and practice. Ayy, yeah, purpose and practice. Podcast game, ayy, he got it mastered. It's encore. It's a nine-chord banger. Dr. Ross.
Peace to the family out there, to the Purpose and Practice podcast community. We are back with another episode. Can you believe we are at episode number 20? Episode number 20. And I took a week off. So I'm like, the show is really taking off, bringing you some phenomenal guests, and we definitely got one. We got one tonight. Before we even get into, our guests and introducing our guests tonight, I just wanted to basically send out my appreciation for all of the love that you all been showing for the show. It's like, I was like last week when, we didn't have a show and we took a week off, and I was like, yo, I don't want to take a week off. Like I want, we got to keep delivering and keep giving this message to the people, because here at Purpose and Practice, we're about, showing those stories of folks, coming up, developing a purpose, and then practicing and making sure they are consistent as possible and finding ways to hone whatever their craft is and to perfect it. So that's what we are about, that journey to perfection, and all of the imperfections that lie within. So with that said, like the guest we got tonight, special guest for me, Dr. Sarah Thomas. Like, listen, when I tell you, like I met Sarah, and we've been virtual. Like we've never even met in person. Like, right. Like we never met in person. But salute to Regina Schaefer.
Yes.
One of the educators and a sister to me, but I met her through education. So, and I met Regina, 15 plus years ago. And she was someone who like kind of showed me the ropes as an educator. So long story short, I've, about maybe 7 years ago, Regina put me in touch with Sarah, because Sarah was doing like some phenomenal work in education, specifically edtech. And we're going back to where edtech wasn't what it is today. Like this is like, the beginning stages, like 10 years ago, whatever. And like, once I started following Sarah's work, I was just like turned on to the point of like, yo, I got to do more. Like, what else can I do? Because when I tell you, and you're going to find out during the show, like Sarah is doing a little bit of everything. She's from blogging, real talk though, from entrepreneurship, starting publishing companies, most of all, bringing people together. And that's what I love about, her company, EduMatch, the publishing company, because the whole purpose of it was to bring folks together, to bring educational communities together. And when I tell you, she's been bringing that energy, over the years, and it needs to be especially applauded. It needs to be applauded, like real talk. So with that said, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to ask you, Sarah, how are you feeling, sis? How you feeling?
Oh, I am good. Thank you so much for having me, Elle. It's so great to be here on the show. I am, I'm just very honored to be here. So, and thank you, and big ups to you. Big shout out to you. Thank you for giving me the flowers. I'm gonna give them right back to you, because your work definitely inspires me, and I'm so honored to be connected and so honored to be here tonight. So thanks for having me.
No doubt. And this is what the community is all about, right? So I believe in the Sankofa method, and I believe Sankofa is a verb, and on our basic, the way that we move and our icon for our show, is the Sankofa bird, and that's all about reaching back and bringing forward. And I feel like you are one of those people. You definitely reach back, bring forward, bringing that knowledge forward and feeding the people. So you have fed me, and I'm happy that you're saying now that you have gotten some things from me as well. So
Oh
salute.
yeah. Yes.
No
Thank
doubt.
you.
No
Thanks for
doubt.
everything.
Salute,
Yeah.
salute, salute, salute. So, Sarah, what we like on the show, and I know you tuned in, here and there, and you've heard some of our episodes, but one of the things that I like to bring to the community is background stories, and
Yeah.
I'm really, really, really heavy into, finding out and giving our guests opportunities to talk about them growing up before they have
Mhm.
become, the people that they are currently. So if you can just start off by just sharing, telling us where you grew up, how you grew up, what life was like for you kind of coming up.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm from the DMV, from the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. So Virginia specifically, right outside of DC, about maybe 20 minutes outside of DC. And my folks are from Haiti, both of them. They came over in the 60s. They had my brother in the late 60s, and 13 years later they had me. So we have like a big age gap between the two of us. But I mean, it was a very loving family, a very close family. Shout out to my grandma. She would have been 113 years old today. But yeah,
I saw that
yeah.
post. I saw that
Yeah.
post. Wow.
Yeah. So she lived
Wow.
not too far away, about maybe 10 minutes away. So I would see her on the weekends. We're a very tight-knit family, very loving, very close. My community was, it's home. It's my community. But I feel like, when I was a kid, then there was definitely like those track classes, with like the GT, the AP, and there weren't a whole lot of people who looked like me in those classes. And I often found myself kind of isolated. I had friends, but not that many friends. I didn't always feel like I belonged there. And I got that feeling from teachers, students, parents, some of my classmates were awesome, but some of them not so much, and
Wow.
yeah, and my neighborhood
Wow.
was kind of like that as well. So I kind of grew up with a bit of a sense of isolation in some ways, because there weren't a whole lot of Haitian Americans in my community either. And so, I decided to go to an HBCU for college. I was just like, I need a different experience. So shout out to Howard University, home of the Bison. Yeah.
No doubt. Listen,
Yeah.
I didn't go to an HBCU, but you know how the HBCUs go. My best friend, my brother, his brother went to Howard. So you know how that goes. Like, if one of your boys is down there, one of your homegirls is down there, it's like, yo, I go to Howard too. So we were at the homecomings, like we was at the gate, like we were everywhere, the shows. Yo, talk a little bit about those experiences at Howard, if you don't mind.
Yes.
If you don't mind.
I have to
Especially
say,
coming from what you just painted, like the story you just
right.
painted, which I don't want to gloss over.
Right.
But like, there must have been a contrast between landing in Chocolate City,
Yes.
as opposed to coming from, the situation that you just explained.
Oh my goodness. Yes, indeed. It was definitely a shift. When I got there, then I realized a couple of things very quickly. Number one, I looked to my left, I looked to my right, I saw people who looked like me. I found other Haitian American students. I found students from all over the world, and from right here as well. And I mean, we all bonded. It felt like family. I found also, and I'm trying to figure out how to say this in a way that doesn't come off negative, but I was able to, I got the benefit of the doubt. And that was something that I was not used to. I remember being in classes in like, particularly middle school, high school, and it was pretty much like, you do this or you get flunked. There is no benefit of the doubt. But at Howard there was, and I did appreciate that. And being young and immature, I did take a little liberty with that. but but I mean, it all worked out. I remember, oh my goodness, like for example, my swimming class. I had a swimming class junior year, 8 a.m. I never went to that swimming class, like never. I was just like, no, I'm not doing it. And so I came the last day and I was just like, I know I'm going to flunk, but is there anything I can do to not flunk? And he's just like, if you pass the final, you get whatever grade you want, or whatever grade you earn on the final, that's going to be your grade for the class. And I was just like, what do I have to do to get an A? He just like, swim 25 laps without stopping. I was like, done. Bam, 25 laps. Those were the hardest 25 laps of my life. But
no, you pulled it off? You pulled it off?
Yeah, I pulled it off. So
wow.
Yeah. So
wow.
I was not used to getting any form of grace academically.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was something cool. But I have to say also, I tried, like, when you get there, I was 17 years old. I have a late birthday, right? So
you were a baby on campus. Wow.
I was a baby on campus. Oh my goodness, I took full advantage of that too. But but oh my goodness, like I would say you want to fit in at that age. You want to fit in, and I wanted to fit in somewhere. And I remember, like, there was a whole lot of things I stopped doing and a whole lot of things I started doing, like right when I got there. I've always been very eclectic, like in my taste. But I feel like I kind of went a little too far left in terms of going left. Like, I mean, left is good. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. I went a little to the extreme in terms of just just trying to get rid of acquired taste I had from home, so to speak, in an attempt to fit in. Wow. Well, really, that was unnecessary. I mean, at Howard, one of the things I love there is that you can be yourself. You can, you like, everyone is respected for who they are, but me not understanding that, thinking I had to conform, then I did a lot to try to find myself.
Were you conscious of that though? Was that, thinking, going back to like thinking, like, were you conscious, like, yo, I'm kind of like changing, I'm trying to fit in, I'm trying to conform, I'm going like, or was it something that you woke up afterwards and say, wow, what was I, like, what happened?
Yeah, no, I remember I made an effort. Like, this was like a legit concerted effort to try to conform and try to fit in. And there's a lot of things I did, experimenting. I got my ears pierced, like my ears were never pierced, and I was like, this is dressing differently, So I mean, but I feel like eventually everything merged together and became me. So so trying on different identities, it all became me. It all became Sarah. So
and and I think that for all of us who have gone through that process of leaving a home and going out as 17-year-olds or 18-year-olds, like, I don't think we realize how heavy that is. Like, yo, that free will is like, it's crazy, it's really, it's crazy, man. And I think of now being my age, being 45 and having kids, and I'm thinking, I have a 10-year-old and I have a 12-year-old, and I'm like, hold up, so in 5 years Layla may be on a college campus, like that. That's like, that's bugging me out, like, so, because I know how fortunate I was, and I know how, we look back at life and like, yo, this could have went that way, or it could have went that way. Fortunately enough, it went this way, so, like, when you say that, it really makes me, I appreciate where you're coming from with that, in terms of being on the campus at that age, trying to fit in, so you go, you get your ears pierced at DC. And would you say though, your experience there, did it shape you in terms of like, all right, I kind of know where I stand and I have a confidence going out into the world postgraduate?
Yes, absolutely. Howard taught me many, many things. So much so I stayed there for 8 years. I did my undergrad and my grad there. And I mean, it really does become part of your identity, you know,
Mhm.
and that confidence that you're talking about, like going there, you know, having access to world-class professors, you know, who are
Right.
recognized as experts in their field, and respected. And the crazy thing is, I went for a totally different field in undergrad. I went to TV production, radio, TV, film. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Okay.
so we had like speaker series with Spike Lee. You know, Bill Duke was one of our
Wow.
professors. You know, it was crazy, and I mean, but it really did build me up in ways that I had been broken down. You know,
I
over the
like that.
years. Yeah,
I
yeah. So
like
there were
that.
and there's sometimes, you know, only ways that you can heal yourself, you know, and I would say that it was more a societal type breakdown, you know, in the early years, because the
Mhm.
family unit was strong and always supporting me, building me up. But, you know, just going out in the world and, you know, as a kid, Howard did a whole lot of healing. It gave me a whole lot of healing in that.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that, man. I think that those are the stories because there's some young folks out there right now who may be making a decision,
Hmm.
on a university, on a college, or there may be some parents who are listening,
Hmm.
who are like, I'm not sending my baby, to DC. My nephew right now, who's going to be graduating, is wants to go to a historically black college, so my sister-in-law may be listening, and maybe she
Yeah.
needs to
Yeah.
hear, you know what I'm saying? She needs to hear this story,
Hmm.
because that's what, in terms of parenting and in terms of rearing children, there's a space where it's like we got to let go, and
Hmm.
we have to let them experience the world just like we had to experience the world.
Yes,
So
that's true.
I want to go back though to coming up because you had said some things. You talked about some like gifted classes, like honors classes. You were finding, you were able to realize that, wow, there's not a lot of folks who look like me in those
Hmm.
classes. Now, were you in those classes or
Yeah.
were you outside looking in? So you were in those classes.
Right.
Okay.
I was in those
Okay.
classes
Okay.
and
Okay.
feeling like I was like they were trying to push me out a lot of
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got that energy from teachers basically.
I got it from teachers, I got it from some of my classmates, some of their parents, you know. Yeah, so it was pretty much coming from those angles, you know.
Yeah. So you were getting
Yeah.
it from all ends. All
Yeah.
ends. But did
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
Did you get that feeling like, yo, I want to be out, like I want to be with my friends or be with my peers or be away from this? Did that ever
Mm.
cross like where it was like you had to make that kind of not a decision, but you were feeling like, yo, I want out.
Yeah, I would say a couple of times. And I know like when it got to later years, like junior, senior year, or yeah, I would say like junior, senior year in high school, where your schedule's kind of more flexible. There
Hmm.
were a couple of classes that, you know, I started out taking the AP, and then I was just like, nah, I'm done with this. And I switched over. Like I remember government was like that. That was one of the classes I took that was like that. But yeah, but I mean, I did have a couple of friends that, you know, we're still Facebook buddies to this day, you know.
That's what's up.
So yeah, so there was some really cool, there were some cool folks in there. But I mean, just that energy, you know, the toxic energy, just I
Hmm.
just wish that wasn't a thing. And I know that students still today are going through that like
Hmm.
25 years later. So I mean, you know, yeah, it's crazy.
And it,
Yeah.
it is it is unfortunate, and here's the thing that I'll say about that is I was just having a conversation last night with educators in the county that I work in, and I
Mhm.
grew up in this county, and I said to them, I was like, a lot of times we push to say, all right, we want to get more black and brown students into honors AP. We want to open up, those classes for kids, which is great.
Mhm.
But if we don't change that gatekeeper mentality of the
Yes.
teachers who are instructing in those courses or the
Mhm.
mindset and I don't think we spend enough time because that's the hard work
Mhm.
is making folks feel comfortable in those spaces and not like
Right.
imposters, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and Is that something that, because you mentioned, like, still today, students are struggling with that,
Mm.
is that, how do we change that though? Like, like, what does it take to get that to change?
Oh man, that is such a
That's
great
the
question.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that is a great question. I'm seeing a lot of schools and districts are doing a work on, implicit bias and things like
Mhm.
that. So I think that that's definitely a good introduction. That can't be all of it though. It takes a lot of reflection, a lot of open conversations, and building up that space where those
That's right.
conversations can be had. So that's why I really love like social media nowadays. Like, I'm part of several Voxer groups like Clear the Air, Twitter chats and stuff like that. And people are having conversations and
Yes.
people are changing themselves from the inside. And, their that effect goes outwards to, students, to other educators. So yeah, so shout out to everyone who's
Shout,
doing that
yo,
work.
yo, that's what I was getting ready to hit. Shout out to Clear the Air. Like, Clear the Air is like, I've been tuning into that for a minute. I did the book study last summer or 2 summers ago, I think it was. I did it. Val doing that work with
Yes,
Clear the
yes.
Air is like, yo, that's the work. That's the work that we need, to be done, and especially it is, especially the Voxer,
Yeah.
is that it gives folks from around the world a chance and an opportunity to engage in these discussions and form community. you know
Absolutely.
yeah, it absolutely does. So a big shout out to that. Yo, I feel like these vibes right now. You
Yes.
what's going on in the background? What we got? Somebody trying to
Oh
get
my
somebody
goodness.
car.
Yes, it's constant. It is constant. If it's not cars, then it's like music or, people
Yo, but
on the phone.
Yo, it's funny because I love it though, because it reminds me of growing up,
Right.
like, and it's funny because now I don't have those things, but they're very familiar to me.
Right.
Just hearing that just brings me back to, to a space,
Yeah.
of this urban, like, living in these settings and things like that. So I love that. I love that. So it
Oh yeah.
definitely takes me back. So, Sarah, you leave Howard,
hmm
and you, like you said, you were like TV production, radio production, and you leave. What happens? Where do you end up right after Howard University? And you did your undergrad and master's there, you said, right?
Yeah, yeah, my undergrad and my grad degree. So it's funny because right when I started my coursework, probably like freshman year, sophomore year, something like that, my mom started teaching middle school French. And so I would go down to her classroom, I would, visit, I would help her set up at the beginning of the year, work with her students. And I was just like, oh, I think this is where I really want to be. But by that time, I had all my coursework done. So, or a large chunk of it. I didn't want to change my
Uh-huh.
major. So immediately after graduating, or actually I should say senior year, I picked up a job at a community access cable station. And I worked there for a long time, like 7 years. I actually started doing this even while I was teaching, right? But that very first
Mm.
year, that very last year in college, I started working there. And then that first year after graduation, I was working there still. And I re-enrolled in a grad program. I was going for intercultural communication. But I came down the stairs one day. I saw a flyer on the wall. They were looking for teachers in a local school district. And I was just like, okay. And it was like alternative certification. They're just like, yeah, you just apply and, we vet you. And if you're selected, then you take the praxis, you go through a summer institute, and, then you'll be in the classroom. I was like, cool. So I applied, and they picked me. And so that whole first year I was kind of, in preparation of this journey. So I was taking classes, the coursework I was missing, like I think I needed 2 sciences or whatever. So I went to community college, took 2 sciences, I took the praxis. And then that summer they had that month-long institute where you went
Uh-huh.
Monday through Thursday from 8 to 5, I want to say. You got your coursework in. Fridays you went to student teach at
Okay.
summer school right? And then so there was
Oh, they
3
had
weeks
y'all with
of
summer school kids?
they had us with summer school. Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
So there were maybe like
Y'all
6
earned it.
kids. Yeah,
Y'all earned
there
it.
were like 6 kids in this class, right? And then the final week, they were just like, okay, you delivered a lesson and the teacher will, assess you or whatever. So there was that. And I mean, it was a really cool experience. When I was impatient because they were supposed to place you with the school, but me being me and just like, oh, I need some some stability. Like, I need to know where I'm going. I decided to go find a school myself. And it was not a good look. Like, I really should have waited for him, because I think that they had like some schools in mind where the principals would be like, like, oh, new teacher, let me kind of guide you through this.
Supportive. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But I interviewed. The very first school I interviewed offered me a job. I took it, and needless to say, it was not a good look. That first year was not a good look. Neither was the second or the third. But the fourth one was like, I loved my administrators in the fourth one. It was just like a really kind of shaky year, in that it was like the fourth year of a 4-year restructure or whatever. So they had like the whatever that thing was. I forgot those 3 letters that they wanted you. I forgot the acronym. Adequate yearly progress.
Yes,
AYP.
yes, AYP.
Yes.
AYP, yes.
Yeah. So it was the 4th year for them to
it was
hit
pressure.
AYP.
It was a lot of pressure.
It was a lot of pressure.
Yes.
So that year it was better, but it was still very, very kind of shaky. But that 5th school, that was a charm. Or that 5th year, I should say, 4th school, that was the charm. And from there, it was a whole different ball game.
And did you, at that point, did you realize, all right, education is something like this is where I want to be?
Like, oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. By that, when I had that first solid year on year 5, I was just like, I do not see my life going in any other direction. Like, I'm in this, like, this is where I need to be. Cause I mean, before that, I was just like, I really want to be here. I love working with the kids, but it's a little much. So, I'm gonna, let me see, maybe this whole music thing will work out. You're like, I was gigging on the side with the band and everything, and I was, it was kind of like my release. I needed that release, and I still do, but I was just like, yeah, maybe I might get a deal. But once I hit that 5th year, and I was just like, okay, I'm all in on education. Like, this is
it was. So like the music, and I forgot to mention that when I was introducing you, that whole music piece. Tell me about that. Like, is that something you're still keeping like going? Are you still doing your music thing? Like, what's up with that?
I wish I could say yes, but it's kind of taking a backseat. But I still, you see all behind me, I have the soundproofing.
The sound, I see all of it. Yeah.
Over here, I got my guitar and the soundproof booth to the side. So hopefully one day I'll go back to it. But just lately, just with everything, I haven't really had the time. But I really want to, though. I really, really want to.
Yeah. How did you pick that up, though, Sarah? Like, where was that something from home? Meaning your parents? Were your parents into music? Was it something you picked up at school? How did that come about?
Yeah, it was kind of a little bit of both. Like, my family is very musical. My mom plays piano, my dad plays accordion, my brother was playing the drums for a while. Yeah, so I loved music ever since I was a kid. I remember getting a toy guitar when I was maybe 3 or whatever, and I had my mom show me how to play some piano. I took some voice lessons, piano lessons. I was very into chorus. Like, I would say in high school chorus was like my life. And then after that in college, it was being at Howard, it was perfect opportunity, to kind of unleash that whole artfulness. So we started a record label, a few of my friends and I.
All right.
Yeah. So, and that kind of laid the ground for EduMatch. Like, a whole lot of the books I read, kind of put me in that mindset very early on. So, it was a lot of fun.
That, that's a good segue, because that entrepreneurial spirit, in you is something that is like crazy, crazy evident. And what I kind of want to know, and you kind of laid the groundwork already in terms of how that began to develop.
Mm.
EduMatch, definitely shout out to EduMatch, and I'm gonna put that up in here. Make sure you go up and visit it. If you're an author, if you're looking for publication, make sure you check this out. If you're interested in reading great stories about educators around the world who have their basically they're in the day to day. These are the stories you want to hear, and that Sarah is showcasing in EduMatch. I had the opportunity to be published in one of the, I think it was in 2019 or 2018, one of the anthologies, that was like hot, and reading all of the different stories from the different educators. So definitely shout out to that. But
Thank you.
how, like, when you develop that entrepreneurial spirit, so you're telling me that it kind of started with the whole music when you all were starting your own music thing.
Yeah.
So how did that go? You said you were researching and reading.
Yes. Yeah, it was crazy. And I have to give a huge shout out to my parents because it really started with them. Like my folks are both, entrepreneurs. They've started like their own companies, different forms of companies over the years, ranging from newsletters to greeting card companies, to translation. So,
Wow.
just kind of being around them, watching that, just had me trying out things ever since I was a kid, And so with the record label, then it was pretty wild. I put all my time and attention into that like senior year. I didn't do so hot senior year in college because I was trying to
Focus on that.
focus on that, thinking that we were going to be like the next, like we were going to be the bad girl, like bad boy. We were going to be bad girl,
Hold up.
That wasn't the name of it, though.
We got to pause. Let's pause.
That wasn't the name.
So listen, but no, let's go there because real talk. When I talked about going down to Howard, and we were going down there, and my man's, my best friend, my brother, shout out to Mr. Gilbert, who's a teacher, public school teacher. His brother was down there, and he was roommates with an A&R. Okay, so this is when Puffy was down there.
What?
So he was yes. This was pre Bad Boy, but what a Bad Boy eventually became.
Mhm.
So it was him, D-Dot, Derek Angeletti was down there at the time. If you Mad Rapper, that's Mad Rapper. So this was during that whole Bad Boy era, where it was before the Bad Boy era. Like, this is where it came from. So when you said like Bad Girls, it took me back, because we would go down there and we would be rubbing shoulders with MCs that were like, yo, we're in the same spot as the Biggie's in the spot, Puffy's in the spot. Like, that's where when we were going to homecomings, that's who was down there, and we kind of had like the inside track, because his brother was roommates with someone who was an A&R, and who eventually became an A&R under Bad Boy, so that, that's why when you said that Bad Girl, I was like, oh, all right, let's talk about that. So that must have been post.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, that was
all right.
Behind that. Yeah, I was at Howard from 99 to 03. We started the record label
in
02. So it was like, and oh man, and now in hindsight, I wish I would have come up to like Philly or something like during that time, like on the weekend, seeing how easy it is to travel now. Back then, well, not now, but, but pre-pandemic, right?
True.
But
True.
Man, it would have been so cool to do like Philly road trips on the weekends and stuff and just vibe, because that was a time with Jill Scott and the Roots and all of them. Yes. Oh,
yes.
Hindsight.
Yes.
I would have loved that.
That was that moment.
Yeah.
That was that moment.
Yes.
So is that like, it's crazy because we are in this week. I was reading somewhere, and I remember, it's funny because I remember getting the albums. This was the week of Into the 36 Chambers, and Midnight Marauders came out the same day. Okay. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it's like, yo, I was just reading that and I was like, damn, like that's crazy, for music heads, that's a crazy. Yes, Midnight Marauders. They both November 9th, 1993.
Dang.
That yes.
Yes,
Yes. Yes,
1993. Woo!
1993, So with music, and it's funny because the people that I interview, and I've interviewed a few people who were into music, and it's like they usually say family was a big inspiration,
Mhm,
got them involved in music early.
mhm.
You're in terms of like what you're into when it comes to genres of music.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I like a little bit of everything, like just a little bit of everything. I would say, first and foremost, I gotta give it up to 90s R&B. Like that is my favorite.
Golden
Um,
era.
yes,
Golden.
yes, TLC and Vogue. I grew up wanting to be in both of those groups. You know, but Aaliyah is my favorite singer. Like,
Mm.
just like her vibe was so cool and it influenced me like throughout my life, like I really love how chill she was and treated everybody with respect and not that artists don't, but I mean it felt like really genuine. So I
True.
appreciated that.
True.
So I love R&B. That is my number one, but I love a little bit of everything. I love I gotta give a shout out to go-go music for the DC area.
DC,
Yep, yep.
DC, yeah.
Old school go-go. I would say alternative is another love of mine, like
Mm,
Evanescence. That is my group. I love Evanescence, Garbage, Nirvana,
good stuff.
Soundgarden, all of them. I love Haitian music, Zouk Compa. I love Latin music. I'm trying to think, what else do I love? Oh, I love rap and I love I know I love a lot more stuff than that, but those are usually my go-tos.
But that's a lot, Sarah. You in that it kind of brings me to the piece of you that I want folks in our community to hear about, right?
Mhm.
I consider you as, first of all, very unique. Um, you're very unique and very honest, very candid. I find that in a lot of your posts. You talk about your failures. You talk about,
A lot.
like
There's a
which
lot.
which I love though, Sarah, because I think that, especially with social media, it's easy to be like, I just want to post all the good stuff.
Mhm.
And you go all out to make sure people are getting a full picture.
I appreciate that.
And I know that's the feeling that I get. And if you could just talk about your approach to your visibility on social media and how, like, what's your whole philosophy on in terms of what you're bringing to the people, like, because to me it's like it's unguarded, it's real. So can you just talk about that a little bit?
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I would say, um, shout out to Jenny Magera. Like she gave a
Mm,
fantastic keynote at ISTE in 2017 that kind of changed my perception. I know that before that, I tended to be very kind of filtered in my thinking. Like when I first
mm,
started blogging when I first started education blogging back in probably 2013, then it was very snarky, very like uncut. It was just pure, just blah 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 blah. And then I started getting into the world of edtech a little bit,
mhm,
conferences, things like that, and people were saying branding, 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 and I mean, yes,
yes.
I hear that. I hear that 100%, and I do agree, that we should be mindful of what we post. But I think that we also need to be real with what we post
True, true,
because, we're
true.
all learning from and with one another. And I would say that, with Jenny Magera's keynote, when she was talking about telling the full story, that I can't even say how much that inspired me. I was just
Yes.
like, I was just like, yes, absolutely. So I've been trying to, when I do blog, I've been trying to kind of put it out there. It's blogging has kind of evolved for me. Songwriting used to be my way to process things when I didn't really
Mm,
understand and I needed to make sense of what made no sense to me. And I would just like sit there, write a song about it. I'm just like, okay, here are my thoughts. Bam, I got it. Same thing now with blogging. You know, whenever there's these things I can't seem to resolve on my own. And I mean, that's not the only reason I blog, but a lot of times when I blog, then it's just because, you know, this is eating at me and I need to just figure out what my stance is. What do I think about it? And let me just organize it and put it out there in case, you know, in case it resonates with anybody, you know, or in case people can give me feedback, you know, that's another reason to put it out there, you know, and yeah.
And what, here's what I want to go. Here's where I want to go with this, because you putting it out there and the courage to put it out there raw and like, yo, this is whether it's the failure or this is how I feel about this situation, right? I think is very important, because in many cases, there's someone out there that feels that same way, but they're like, I can't put that out there, or I don't want to put that out there, or I want to be, you know, I'm this, I'm that. And one of the things, you know, that is after I started doing this show, a lot of folks reach out to me and said, oh my God, it's like you're being your authentic self.
Yes.
And I was like, yo, and I think back, we started off talking about Regina, right?
Yep.
This is real talk. When I first started, and we're going back 10 plus years ago, I started like to get online, started to do videos, this and the other. And Regina hit me up and she was like, "El, you're not being your real self. Like people will love your real, who you are."
Yes.
And it took a while for that to resonate with me, because I had this, I thought that, like when you start talking about like, I have to be careful, I have to brand myself. And she was like, no. And it took me years though, Sarah, to get to that point. So when you said that, it definitely spoke to me. But what I would like to hear more about from you is that, you know, the being confident in sharing that self, that authentic self. You know, how did that come about? Did you automatically feel that? Did you have to grow to feel that? Do you ever question like, oh my God, I may miss out on another opportunity because I'm being this real self? Like, is that you know, like, because these are the things we juggle, you know, like real talk, like like real talk, we struggle with that, you know?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, 100%. I feel you on that. And, you know, it's wild because it's always scary, you know, when you kind of pour yourself out on a blog post or pour yourself out in a video and hitting publish. There's always like that moment of fear, like, how is it going to be received? And, you know, I struggle with that all the time. But I mean, usually this is the back end, the part that nobody gets to see. I usually read it like 3-4 times, then I'll hit publish, then I'll go back and read it like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more times, tweak it. And yeah, but I mean, I feel like, you know, we have to. And I feel like, honestly, my writing is my most authentic self, because there's, you know, there's like that filter a lot of times, like when you're talking with somebody face to face or, you know, in any given situation. I know that I struggle a lot of times because I have that filter up, because I know that there's, you know, once you say it, you can't take it back, you know. True. And I've had so many moments in my life where that's bitten me in the behind, you know, like saying something and not being able to take it back. So I generally don't say a whole lot like face to face, unless we have, you know, that I have a rapport with the person. I know that I can go back and elaborate, because it usually comes out wrong most of the time when I say stuff. But that writing piece, that lets me kind of, you know, edit, make sure this is a process. Is this what I want to say? Yes. Okay, cool. So bam, and there it is. But yeah, it's always scary. Always.
It's very, very scary. But then when you put it out there, you know, I was reading one of your blogs, The Missing Me. And I was like, yo, it was, because I felt that. I felt that. And I was like, yo, that's right. That's, and when you provided all of the contextual like evidence of like, all right, this is how I've come to this point. Like
Right.
it didn't just happen overnight. Like, if talk a little, and missing me, you talk about the terminal degree, you talk about the PhD, and it resonated with me because I'm always the first one. And it made me start rethinking. I'm always the first one in the meeting. Oh, Alfred's fine. You don't, because they're like, no,
Yeah.
but then people say, but you've worked so hard for that degree. And, it makes me start thinking like, all right, am I underselling myself?
I hear you.
Yes. And it's like the outside. So I'm like, is it some imposter syndrome going on with me where I'm like, no, just call me Alfred. Like, don't worry
Right.
about calling me Dr. Rawsdale. So can you talk, first of all, just give us some context, give the community, they may not have read Missing Me, but if you can kind of give some context behind that, I don't know, that was your latest. I remember I just read it
Yeah.
maybe a week ago. So if you could talk a little bit about what inspired that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, I'm right there with you. Like, I am still struggling with the whole doctor title. I
Mhm,
graduated in 2017, so it's been like almost 3 full years now. It's December 2017.
mhm,
And I'm the exact same way. I'm just like, call me Sarah, that's cool. Um, I would say what inspired it is that, like I said, I'm cool with Sarah. I'm getting cool with Dr. Thomas, but I'm not cool with Miss Thomas when people know better,
yes.
because I'm just like, okay, like if I'm calling my doctor and making an appointment and say Miss Thomas, that's fine, whatever. That's not a professional setting. But in a
Mhm,
professional setting, sometimes people have different motivations for why they might choose to miss me, or
mhm,
or just not go by that. So I talked a little bit about that, and also talked about a lot of times when we do panels, or
mhm,
something where there's a collective of other educators involved. I find a lot of times, number one, I might be the only person up there that looks like me. And number two, in cases where that is the situation, then, they'll usually say, oh yeah, Dr. So-and-so, Dr. So-and-so, Dr. So-and-so, and Sarah Thomas. I'm just like, wait a minute now. Can we bring that
yes.
back?
Yes. Put some respect on my name. Like
Right.
real talk.
Right. Like, I mean, if you want to say Bob, Susie, Jim, and Sarah, cool, I'm fine with that. But I mean, I feel like if one person, has the same degree as someone else, then everybody should be addressed in kind,
Mhm.
you know?
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk a little bit about what was the motivation?
Mm.
Because like we real like I was just going like because and I think there was a statistic that you shared. There was a statistic that you shared in the piece that talked about the percentage of Black PhDs. And
Mhm.
then I think I don't know if it was 18 or 19, you were like, there was like one PhD rewarded. And I may have been, because I read a lot of stuff. So sometimes I
Right.
mix and match things, right? So, but
No,
long
okay.
story, but real talk, like, what was it that pushed you to be like PhD? Like, what pushed you to be like, I want this terminal degree?
So it was kind of multi-layered. I remember, I'm sorry about that. I remember
No.
being a little kid and thinking, oh, that would be cool. That's something I would want to do in life. But I would say what really lit a fire under me was those first 3 years of teaching. Like, as I was saying before, it was, they were rocky to say the least. And I was young, I started teaching at 22. And at that point, I felt like there was a whole lot of um I was being pushed around and stomped on, so to speak.
Mm,
A lot of it was because I mean, I did make some mistakes, like nobody's perfect, and I made some rookie mistakes that I have since learned from, so knock on wood. But at the same time, I feel like there was some ageism in play.
Mm,
And,
mm,
because I was young, I was
sure,
young, and
sure.
I feel like I wanted people to take me seriously, and I wanted to kind of protect myself. So that is what ultimately had me go back to back, like right after the master's, going right back for the PhD. Just because I was just like, yeah, I need something. I need some kind of protection, so that,
Mhm.
if I am bouncing around, then I can be like, oh, well, looky here, I'm in this
Right.
program. You know? So
Yo,
yeah.
that, that makes a lot of sense to me, because, and that's why I ask about what motivated it. Was like a lifelong dream? Was
Mhm.
it, I've experienced this? Like for me, it was like I wanted to take all questions off the table. Like I
Mm.
never wanted to walk away from a job interview and be like I was underqualified.
Oh.
So I was like, yo, I'm playing, it's a poker game. I'm like, yo, this is the flush. Like there's no, if they beat me, it's because they just had something totally on another level,
Right.
or it was something else at play. So, but what I kind of want to talk about, Sarah, is Black female educators, right?
Mhm.
Black women of color, Black and brown educators, because I started off and I was sharing the story about Regina.
Yes.
And when I start thinking about, Black women educators, I think about my fifth grade teacher, right?
Mhm.
Miss
Mhm.
Roy, who shout out, like, was just on another level and got me to start thinking future self, right? From a fifth
Yes.
grader.
Is that the
And
one you wrote about?
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
And yes, that's the story of Mrs. Roy.
Mhm.
And and then I think about, because after Mrs. Roy, real talk, fifth grade, I never had another Black female teacher, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Um, and then we go to, like, I talked about Regina, my
Yes.
first year teaching, and I was alternate route. So I didn't know I wanted to be a teacher. I end up teaching. Regina's teaching downstairs, and we start connecting.
Mhm.
And she started teaching me how to be a teacher. Like it
Nice.
was like, yo, this is how you teach.
Yes.
Like, bro, this is how you teach, right?
Yes.
So, like, I'm like, yo, all these kids come to your room during lunch, and like, all these kids that people say are the knucklehead kids, the bad kids, they're all in your room at lunchtime. So I would go to her room during lunch, and we would start having these conversations. And it
Mhm.
started like, yo, like my mind, like whatever. And then I think of you, and I'm like, she put me in touch with you. And you start stretching me. Like, I watch you and I'm like, all right, this is an angle. This is an angle. So I want to salute, the Black women teachers who don't get the credit, or educators, even if it's not educators, who don't always get the credit that they deserve. And the
Mm.
story is not always told, right?
Mm. Yeah.
So I want to salute that. The second thing I want to do is I want to ask you, in your role,
Mhm.
do you see that as like one of your responsibilities or one of your callings, to be
Mm.
like, yo, this is my one of my commitments, or one of my charges is to act in this role,
Mhm.
is it like, do you see yourself, do you distinguish yourself that way, or do you just say I'm just a teacher, or I'm just an educator?
Yeah, that is a great question. And kind of throwing it back to our discussion on the blog post, that was one of the things I wrote about in there, about why it was one of my reasons why I felt it was important um to kind of speak on the title, for visibility, for if kids want to see themselves in that role, so they can look and say, oh, she did it, I can do
Mhm.
it too. So absolutely. That's something that definitely fuels me. Unfortunately, right now in this role, I don't have as much contact with students as I once had. I was in the classroom for about 10 plus years. And at that time, I just remember the amazing conversations with the kids, and I missed them dearly. I wouldn't trade in what I'm doing now for the world, but I really do cherish that time I had with my students, and just having those conversations, and just vibing off of our students' excellence. Oh my goodness,
Sure.
like the world is in great hands, when they come of age. So I mean, man, but just having conversations, real conversations about life and lessons learned, that has absolutely been something that I have loved about education.
Well, as we draw to our closing,
Mhm.
um, obviously I want to thank you, for
Thank
being part of
you.
the show. Like this, we haven't even gotten into, because I was watching what is it? Insecure, right?
Oh,
So
I love that show.
yo, we're real talk. Like, and I gotta, it's funny because I gotta show, we're working on this show with some friend of mine. We graduated, and we're working on kind of going through some of the episodes as a group, right?
Mhm.
But there was an episode in the last season where Issa was like, I think it was the episode where they kind of played her out with the dine and dash, right?
Okay,
So
yeah, yeah,
yeah, I was like, but it was, before the dine and dash, I think one of them, she was kind of talking about what she did.
yeah. Mhm.
And it was the first time that she really felt like someone was asking her that question in a
Mhm.
genuine in a genuine fashion. So
Mhm.
she had to think, and then it was like, I'm a cultural curator. Like
Mhm.
I bring like these people together. And I was like, yo, like, because before that job didn't exist. That
Right.
title didn't exist. And when I think of you, Sarah, that's how I see you.
I
I see
appreciate
you like before Issa said that, like
that.
that's what, real talk, that's what you do.
Thank you.
You like curate, like just all of these different, like diverse folks who were coming under this umbrella, you know, and you're bringing it all together and kind of like molding it into like, yo, this is the world. And when she said that, I thought about, I was like, yo, that's Sarah. That's what Sarah does with and no, I really, 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 really feel that way. I
Thank
really,
you.
really, truly, truly feel that way. And I don't know if you see what you do with EduMatch as that. Do you ever like, and now I may have been the first person to say, like, yo, that was like the episode on, Insecure, but can you see like kind of like, the similarities in there?
I really do appreciate that. And I mean, I feel so honored right now. Like I can't even tell you. And that is what I hope, that is what I strive to do, like our mission in EduMatch is to amplify the voices of practitioners, and we all learn and grow from one another. We want to make sure that everybody not only is invited to the table but has a seat at the table, and as shout out to my friend Dr. Will, he said about building our own tables. So, definitely,
Yes.
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 So
Yes.
yeah, so trying to, just being a part of that has just been so I've been honored to be a part of people's journeys that they would trust, and allow me to do that. So just a huge shout out to the whole EduMatch community. Huge shout out to you. I really appreciate you and everything you're doing and being here tonight. This is just
Mhm.
amazing. So thank you so much.
Word up, word up, word up. And this wouldn't be without folks like you,
Oh,
and I really feel like, real talk, like, because I feel like we're all interconnected, in one form or the other, we're all interconnected. And I took your course on podcasting, I followed, like, but really, these are the things that went into the back end of
mm,
creating something like this.
mm,
And it's about village. You
yes.
mentioned Dr. Will. Dr. Will, like when I need to know, like, bro, you need to get paid for this. Like, I go to Dr. Will. Like,
Yes.
let me go on his Twitter feed, because he's always
Yes.
gonna remind me that if this is your work, you need to be compensated.
Yes.
You know, and you know, those are the kind of village folks that we need.
Yes,
Those are the
indeed.
kind of village, you know. So, and that's the purpose of this show, is to bring these village folk together with these different perspectives and providing experiences and stories for people who may be able to follow, and not only follow, but then transcend and take it to a whole nother level. So, Sarah, Dr. Thomas, before today, you were always, you know, family to this podcast, because I've learned so much from you. I want to thank you. Yeah,
Yes.
I know how crazy your time is, and for you to take the time to be a part of this. Even when I reached out, I was like, man, I'm probably not gonna be able to get her. I'll reach out now. Maybe I'll get her in March. Maybe I'll get her in April. And when you was like, yo, when's your next? Let me know when you're next. But real talk, Sarah, you've always been that person. You've always been like, yo, what I got to do to help, you know, and I truly appreciate that. Truly appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alfred. You are the bomb. I appreciate you. Thank you.
No doubt. No doubt. So before we close out, is there anything, you know, that you wanted to say, or anything that you wanted to share? Any last words, you know, before we leave for the night?
I just wanted to say thank you once again for having me. Huge shout out to Regina. Yes, thank you for connecting us. Yes, and to everybody listening, then, you know, keep taking care of yourselves and take care of each other. See, I stole that from Jerry Springer. I started saying that last week. I was just like, that was such a dope line before its time even.
And now think about it. Yes, we need that line.
Exactly. So yeah. So definitely, you know, everybody out there, take good care of yourselves. And
no doubt.
Yeah.
And Sarah, we're going to bring you back, because we haven't even gotten a chance to go into the binge watching. Like, it's so much I want to talk to you about. And it's like, yo, we didn't even get a chance, because that's one of the things I value about you, is how well-rounded you are and how you find time for me time, or the veg out, as you say. And we definitely going to bring you back to talk more about the veg out, and you definitely put me back on different world. Like, you got me watching that again. You got me watching, and I'm like, damn, it's so much that I missed as a young kid watching this.
Man,
So maybe that'll be it. Maybe we'll do a little mini series on different world. I don't know. We'll figure something. We'll figure something out. So yo, to the community out there, we came definitely with some heat tonight. Dr. Sarah Thomas, thank you for blessing us. Those of you who are not, you know, one with her already, please, you know, link up, connect. She is definitely a community builder, definitely someone who is family to the Purpose and Practice podcast. We appreciate you. And to all of you out there, take care of yourself, okay? Look out for each other. Keep safe in these crazy times that we're living in. And we'll see you next week. Next week, we got 2 shows, right? I ain't going to drop who's on, but we have 2 shows next week that are going to be fire. We got a Wednesday show. We got a Thursday show. So be on the lookout. I'm going to drop the Wednesday probably on Saturday. So you'll be able to find out who's on Wednesday. So again, salute to you, Doc. We appreciate you, you know, straight love. We'll see you all next week. Purpose and Practice, signing out. Dr. Ross Dill, peace out. Take care of yourselves.
It's a 9-chord banger. Dr. Ross dropping knowledge to the masses. Man, you now tuned in to Purpose and Practice. Yeah, purpose and practice. Keep your mental sharp. Learn all the tactics. Dr. Ross dropping knowledge to the masses. Man, you now tuned in to Purpose and Practice. Yeah, Purpose and Practice. Podcast game. He got it mastered. Sign call.